Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
Hey, George, I've got a phone call coming in. Hold on. It's coming from upstairs. Should I be concerned?
No.
Am I safe right now?
Nothing to be concerned about.
This guy sounds really, really angry or really, really horny. I can't tell.
The moaner's calling again.
I was going to say the one time I was waiting for him to go... I was waiting for it and it didn't happen.
We watched 1974's classic Black Christmas. George, Black Christmas. It is actually a Christmas movie. It's Christmas season. It's all on theme tonight. How you feeling?
Yep, pretty good.
Travis, how you doing, man?
Good.
All right.
Feeling good, Lewis.
Now, you've seen this multiple times before, right, Travis?
What, this movie?
Yeah,
I've
you've
never
seen this
before.
You've never seen
No.
this before?
This was my first watch.
Ooh, boy. Now, George, do you have notes right up front, or do you want me to just kind of put this movie into context and let you know what you just watched?
No, I've seen this a bunch of times.
Oh, there you go.
He's actually in it.
No.
That's how he learned how to use a rotary phone.
I did not have, I don't have notes. Yeah, just school me on this, because...
At 5 years old, you watched Home Alone. At 6 years old, you watched Black Christmas, and every season thereafter. Is that how that went down?
It's basically the same movie.
Black Christmas, 1974. One of the reasons it's important is because in the traditional narrative of how we got from Psycho to Halloween, the mainstream, like somebody's writing an article for, Time Magazine, right? They're like, oh, hey, a new Halloween's coming out. Did you know from Psycho, there was a movie in 74 called Black Christmas, and it came on the heels of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, ... Halloween. So for the first time, George, we can say you have now seen every movie in the mainstream canon from Psycho to Halloween.
Huh.
Yeah.
While I was watching this, I was thinking, why didn't we watch this earlier? Because it does set up a lot of things that we've already done, but not as good as we've seen it.
Well,
but it's not trope, obviously, because it's the original. So for what it was, but he's already seen what it led to. So it's almost like going backwards.
Yeah, I'm incredibly underwhelmed by this movie. And I think it's because, like you said, Travis, I've seen what it evolved into.
Yeah.
And we've done this formula like so many times that it got to a point where some would say it's been perfected, or it's been tested. It's been trial and errored for a long time since this movie, and we've gotten good at it.
Right. So then we kind of went back.
So then we went back to this, and not knowing that it's like the roots, I'm completely underwhelmed.
But now that you know that this inspired before Halloween, this inspired Halloween.
Yeah, that it makes sense now.
So a couple of things. When Bob Clark finished this movie, the word on the street, right, the folklore is that he actually explored doing a follow-up where the killer and, some future victims might be back on campus for a fall holiday. Might have wanted to call it Halloween. There's discussion. We talked about this during, I think, the Halloween episode, that John Carpenter and him kind of had some discussions through their people when Halloween was coming out. The production companies, all the backdoor stuff we never get to see. There was, before, as the babysitter murders becomes Halloween, there's discussions with Bob Clark about his potential plans for Halloween. So there is a universe where John Carpenter doesn't see as many Giallo in college and ends up not making Halloween at the same time that he did. And maybe you get a Halloween from Bob Clark and Company, which would be a follow-up to this.
Now, would you consider this movie an American Giallo?
No. I mean...
It hits a lot of the chords, but...
It's kind of,
I can tell.
It's got a lot of who's doing it going on, but it doesn't do a great job of the, and then there were
reveal.
none kind of Agatha
Yeah.
Christie thing, right? You're not knocking people off who are the suspect. It's
Right.
more of a slasher. Like, it's just a proto-slasher, I think is the best you could say.
But I mean, design-wise, like the cinematography and the way they show the killer, it seemed very giallo to me.
Yeah,
It
how
has-
like everything happens in the same house, like it could be a stage play.
And the POV stuff and the
Yep,
the
the POV
shots
stuff,
of the
yeah.
feet. You get the killer's feet walking. You get you're not getting the face. You're getting the
Lots
full
of
blackout of a
shadows.
face, but you're
Mhm.
just getting an eye. Like all those things, it just seemed to me that it was very European.
Yeah, I would say
Inspired.
yes, European inspired, or at least similar to a lot of European movies at the time. The thing is, though, you haven't seen a lot of Gothic horror, especially the Italian Gothic, and
Right.
this movie has a lot of like haunted house, old castle feels, especially up
Yeah.
in that crowded attic. So I think it's pulling from multiple wells, a lot of which we haven't talked about yet.
Right.
but
It did have a little bit of a feel of the Hammer films. I did, from what I've seen.
yeah, exactly. It's got an old school feel with like a new edge. I really like that instead of a black gloved killer, you have a killer who's got no gloves, but he's in darkness, so it's like the inverse.
Yeah.
His hands are white and the rest of him can't be seen. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an intentional flip on the trope or if it's just a fun thing that they did, but
So did they purposely have the boyfriend Peter wear the same color shirt as Billy?
yeah, that's a red herring or a blue,
Okay.
a light blue herring in this case.
Because even the hair was the same. Like I basically in my mind was going, oh, it's got to be the pianist.
Yeah, I mean they set it up. They set it up, and you took the bait. Simple as that. I mean, and it works out that you do take the bait because then the ending, which we're 5 minutes in, we're already talking about the ending of the movie, but the ending of the movie I think is the best ending of a slasher movie. I'm trying to think of one I like better.
Well, when I was watching, I was thinking of the finale of Halloween where you're getting a shot of all the rooms, you're hearing the breathing. So I'm assuming Carpenter was inspired by the ending of this movie as well.
In the beginning, I mean that whole
In the
first person
beginning,
bit in the
Mhm.
beginning in the attic, you're just like, oh hey, I saw this again 4 years later, only with a kid.
And kind of the idea that this house belonged to Billy before it became a sorority house. That's what I was thinking. So that's kind of a Myers house type thing too.
And a good haunted house thing, which if we ever
Yeah.
get into giallo and gothic a little bit more in depth, which why would we? But if for some reason we do end up mining some more, I'm thinking of Symptoms, directed by Jose Larraz, which is very much like the, if these walls could talk kind of memory of the house, kind of manifested in an attic that is creepy and dangerous, made about the same time. So it's a common theme.
Doesn't sound mainstream enough for me.
No, I don't. I mean, it does have Donald Pleasance's daughter in it, so that's a connection. But like, we're not watching Symptoms on this show, I don't think. So when the movie opens, you're in a sorority house. You meet the cast all in a tizzy. George, do you know who Margot Kidder is?
Is it the chick that answers the phone really aggressively?
Yes, the very
The chick
aggressive.
who looks like she's 47 years old. She's in
very
college.
aggressive phone answerer.
Very aggressive. in
Very
a lot
aggressive.
Of things. Yeah.
Are you familiar with her at all? She's super famous.
No.
She is
I don't think so. Anyway.
famous for being Lois Lane in a little movie called Superman.
Oh, I hate Superman. Okay.
All right, you hate the movie or you hate the character?
The character mostly. I
Okay.
don't think I've ever seen the movie.
Oh, okay. Noted for future.
Maybe I have. I'm not sure.
We'll be doing that.
But
Okay.
she's great. She was in
At some point. He just said, "Oh God," he rolled his eyes. I think we're losing George.
Well, we just had a conversation about boring ass superhero movies
It's true.
this week. So you know where I stand on Superman.
It's
weak.
true.
Yeah.
Weak character.
I didn't know where you stood on zombies either, and then I put 10 seasons of Walking Dead.
Oh
into
no,
you.
dude!
So,
Zombies are awesome.
I'm just telling you.
Freaking love zombies.
By recommendation, though.
What?
It was by recommendation. You weren't watching that shit before.
I don't know
So,
about that. I was a
You
big
might
fan
have
of
to watch the right superhero movies.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I've seen a bunch though. I
You've
think
seen,
with
like,
I think with
4.
zombies. Well, no, I've seen more than 4. With zombies, I started out with Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
And I immediately liked it.
Right.
And then all the
but
other...
not because of the zombies. It was more because of the humor, right?
Well, humor, zombies. Yeah, it's all the same.
It's all real.
But, and then I saw another thing, and then I saw another thing, and then The Walking Dead was like, like this is rich. It's good stuff. So I never had a point in zombies where I was like, meh, zombies.
Not even before Shaun?
I don't think I even thought about it before Shaun.
Right. But if someone came to you and said, dude, you got to watch this Shaun of the Dead. It's got zombies in it. You're like, I fucking hate zombies.
I wouldn't say
zombies.
that. I wouldn't say I hate zombies if I never saw any zombies. I've seen superhero movies. They suck. They're stupid.
Hey, so you're a big fan
Except for
of
The
Jamie
Dark
Lee
Knight.
Curtis, or at least you were before we made you watch all those movies. I haven't checked in
I'm
lately.
Still a fan.
Okay, good.
I'm still a fan, yes.
Before Jamie Lee Curtis, you could make an argument that Margot Kidder was on kind of the same path. She pops up in 72 in De Palma's Sisters, which is amazing. If we ever do a season of all De Palma, you will see that one. Brian De Palma's a genius, but it's a really good flick. Then she does Black Christmas, and then she does Amityville Horror. So, I mean, by 79, she's in 3 like top tier scary movies, and then she gets Superman and Superman 2, and then it all kind of goes on from there. But for a while there, she had some serious horror credentials.
And she was the aggressive phone answer.
She's the aggressive phone answer, the drinker kind of partier, but like not a fun partier, more like a destructive, angry drunk partier.
That's okay. I don't think
Barb.
No. I don't think Barb is the angry phone answer. I think it's Jess.
No, Jess is the main girl.
Yeah.
Jess is not the angry phone answer. Jess is
not angry, aggressive.
I don't know that she's aggressive. She might be more like confident. She's not over there making like jokes and telling him to fuck off and getting threatened. That line where he goes from his manic like blah, 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 kind of thing to I'm going to kill you. Right? He doesn't say that to Jess. He says that to Barb.
Straight out of Scream too.
Yes.
When we watched Scream, I thought Travis was on the level with me, and I guess you hadn't seen this movie yet because I was like, oh, we're going to revisit scary phone calls again. Yeah.
When he said, "I'm going to kill you," I had I want to know who I'm looking at, or I want to know what your insides look like.
Yep.
Like that was the moment I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
So George, you really dug the scary phone call thing in Scream. Has that waned for you? Because phone calls are scary, man.
If he says no, I know why. I know exactly
phone
why.
calls are scary. I had the same reaction to the change in tone and the "I'm going to kill you."
Right.
I had the same reaction. I thought that the phone calls in this were not as disturbing as the ones in Scream. Scream was a stalker,
They were disturbing for a different reason. They weren't disturbing like, oh my God, but they were what was going on the other side of that phone was disturbing. It was like almost if Leatherface called you on the phone. Like it was just, it was bonkers dialogue. Not scary like in Scream where the things he said, you're like, oh my, like it hangs with you.
Right.
Because it's clear, it's precise, and it's like, it's almost like his weapon.
Yeah.
Like he's stabbing you with these words is basically that character. So with this, it was almost like if the Riddler called you, like this guy was like,
yeah,
like, it's like
it didn't resonate.
Yeah, it was
with
like a
me.
funhouse calling you as opposed to I want to know what your insides look like.
I really like how the girls look during the first call. You know, because you get Barb who's just like, oh yeah, whatever, kiss my butt, I'm not afraid of you, blah, blah, blah. You know, but then you get most of the other girls looking very disturbed. It was an interesting play on that. Like, you don't often get like a group call in that scenario. This is one of the first movies that has obscene phone calls as like a plot device. And
were they kind of playing off the what became a trope, the virgins take? Actually, no, they don't, because the first victim is
No, it's
is
opposite.
the final girl.
Yeah, which is again something that they
Flipped.
that they toyed with and got it right.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Well, yeah, the Jess character, although she's not pure, she's like Sigourney Weaver strong. Way before the
Yeah, I'm sure that Jess is the aggressive phone answerer.
After
Because Barb talks to the killer on the phone and is like,
plays with him.
Yeah, like blasey blah whatever.
Yeah.
About it. But the one who answers the phone, she answers the phone multiple times. Always aggressively.
I guess I never thought of her as aggressive.
Hello?
I thought of her as strong.
Yeah.
Like
he's thinking aggressive like I'm thinking. Like she was just very, very combative with the guy on the other side.
No. Yeah, I'm talking about the answerer of the phone. Like she's answering the phone.
You're talking about confidence.
She's answering the phone like she's expecting it to be an emergency.
Right. Like
every time the phone rings.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going down. Maybe she does expect it to be important.
In the first scene, she answers the phone twice. And they're having a Christmas party.
Now, do you know who Olivia Hussey is? Do you know Jess?
No, I don't know who she is.
So Olivia Hussey, Jess, played Juliet in like the famous Romeo and Juliet movie from the late 60s, the one that they show in every high school in the public school system.
She's kind of stunning.
Okay. She might be the prettiest woman that's ever lived.
I'd like to see her all done up because she's kind of plain Jane in this, but still beautiful. But she's not all. She's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis, that same thing, that plain Jane.
She's no Jamie Lee Curtis.
But she actually ends up in a weird twist of like careers and stuff, playing Mrs. Bates, Norman's mother.
Oh, yeah?
In Psycho 4, which is a prequel. It's very weird that she goes from Juliet to Jess to Norman's mom, but that's Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's a good cast, though. You got John Saxon back.
Yeah, we got John.
We love
John Saxon.
You remember him?
Recognize him, or he was the one next to Johnny Depp.
Did you like how I said that? Like I knew who the fuck you were talking about.
No, we knew you didn't know who. He was.
Yeah, John Saxon.
Cop.
Familiar face.
He's been a cop in like 4 movies we watched him in.
Dude, the cops are like cops don't have faces in any of
these
movies.
The main cop, the guy who's kind of like the dad,
the detective,
the dad.
He was the dad in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, he's the dad character.
The dad character.
Like in this movie, he's the
detective.
He's the detective that like gives a shit.
But he's also the dad in Elm Street.
He's Nancy's father.
Also a lieutenant on the police force in that one. He's kind of got a typecast.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a cop.
Gotcha.
Like when I was growing up and I thought of a cop, that was him.
Gotcha.
He's in Tenebrae and he has a heck of a time. But you guys see that
Is
later.
he also a lieutenant in the police?
No, actually,
department?
In that one, he is a press agent, I believe, for an author.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he still dreamy?
It's pre-Elm Street, so yeah.
He's so chiseled.
He's a good-looking dude.
Can we talk about Mrs. Mack?
Only if we acknowledge that Mr. Harrison looks like Michael Keaton in like stage wig and makeup.
Is Mr. Harrison the actual dad?
The actual dad who's looking for his daughter. He looks like Michael Keaton
for his virgin daughter.
He reminded me of Mr. Noodle.
Yes,
from Elmo.
He reminded me of Grandpa Joe as well.
Okay,
got 2 Grandpa Joe lookalikes in a row.
Back to back Grandpa Joe.
To go to Mrs. Mack, which blew my mind that she's Mrs. Mack because somebody married her.
And that she's currently married. She's the
drunk, right?
Yeah. Do you have to be currently married to be a Mrs.?
No, you could be a widow.
Okay.
She reminded me of Mrs. Garrett from Facts of Life. Like, I was getting a Facts of Life vibe from this movie. Definitely. Like, yeah. Because if you think about the show, it's this movie.
Yeah, basically,
If George Clooney was calling these girls on the phone and trying to kill them.
It would be a really good movie if it was George Clooney.
If you ever deep dive into weird 70s proto-slashers, she's also in the same year in a movie called Deranged, in which she plays like an over-the-top seductress.
Ew.
God help me.
Ugh.
Woof.
Woof.
Anyway, that's a weird movie too. You shouldn't watch it. It's all right. It's fine. Deranged is early Tom Savini. So there's that. Season 35. We'll get around to Deranged.
That was the best placement. That was the best nipple placement ever. Oh my god. That was like when I used to listen to Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And I listened to it so much that I was basically
You knew when the drop was coming?
I knew when Fred was going to hit a soundbite.
Yeah.
And I would do the soundbite before
drop,
Fred would
thing.
drop. That's what that was. Like,
yeah.
if I had a button for Wolf and you would beat me to it. Oh man, Wolf.
Now, the part where she opens up the gift from the girls, right? This like moo robe. I don't know nomenclature for clothes because I'm a dude that wears t-shirts and jeans every day, but
I would call it a smock.
Okay. I'll take
like a
smock.
smock.
That sounds like
blouse.
a fun word. It's like a night clothes.
A nightgown?
Moo-moo? Can I just call it a moo-moo? I know what a moo-moo is.
In this case, we'll call it a moo-moo.
I'm going to Google moo-moo real quick.
Well, a moo-moo is like a Hawaiian dress.
I just think about Homer and his moo-moo working from home.
Yeah, wearing my moo-moo.
Which I guess now that I work from home, I need to be careful of that.
Marge, get me my moo-moo.
So
that's like a moo-moo.
She receives the moo-moo, right? And she plays to the camera that she hates it, and she turns to show everybody that she's grateful because she's a good person with a soul. But did that remind you at all of another Christmas movie, George, where a person might get a pink bunny outfit and have to hate it, but still has to put it on? Did you get kind of that kind of vibe?
I didn't think that when I saw it, but now I do.
Didn't they do that face when they got socks?
They did kind of do that face.
Him and Randy, they did the roll of the eyes and they threw the socks behind the
Now,
tree.
George, this movie's directed by a fellow named Bob Clark. Are you familiar with Bob Clark at all?
Yeah, it's Dick Clark's brother.
I thought he played for the Flyers.
It was No, I'm not familiar with that person.
Bob Clark, famous for
one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made.
Black Christmas, of course. He made Porky's. And I mean, back in '83, he made a movie. You've probably not seen this one, George, because you've never seen shit. But have you ever heard of a movie called? It's small budget, probably mostly forgotten movie. George, have you ever heard of a movie called A Christmas Story?
Of course.
Did you know it's directed by the same guy?
No.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
What's funny is the opening shot. It was my first note.
I like A Christmas Story better.
Yeah. I was like, the exterior shot is straight out of A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Like this house with the Christmas. That's how basically that movie starts as well.
Yeah, he just needed the narrator in this one.
Yeah.
Doesn't it start with A Christmas Story, it starts with the dad cursing at the furnace, doesn't it?
Sure. But they show the exterior of that house a bunch of times from the street, just like this.
Yeah, but as they're zooming into it, you hear him cussing in the vents.
And the Bumpus's dogs. I love that movie.
It's wild to me he made both these movies, but he's kind of he's no John Carpenter, right? He's not a style guy. He is a gun for hire, going to make every movie watchable and good. More of a Spielberg than a Carpenter.
I didn't even know he made Porky's. That makes it even better because that's like 3 completely different movies.
I had a Porky's the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, totally tore up my stomach.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, jeez Louise.
It wasn't called the Miss. What was her name? What was the teacher's name? Ballbreaker. Mrs. Ballbreaker. They call her Ballbreaker, but her last name is like Ballbreaker.
What?
You'll see.
The
someday.
teacher. You'll
teacher?
see because we're watching Porky's.
Okay, it's from Porky's. Yeah. Okay,
from a movie you haven't
seen
yet, and
I
haven't seen for 20 years. Scene,
there's a scene in Porky's that we have to watch the whole movie just for one scene.
It's the maggots of Porky's.
No,
it's the legs uncross of Porky's.
Everything in Porky's is good, but there's a scene. There's a particular scene that actually is two, but there's one particular scene that I remember pissing myself watching. Like, I literally peed my pants.
Nice.
Funny. Not scared.
So take your wee break before you watch Porky's, so you don't ruin your couch, is what Travis is saying.
It's pretty hilarious. And I think one of the people in that scene is in this movie as well. I think he's the one who plays Nash.
Nash.
The cop.
Nash.
The cop that didn't know what fellatio was.
Oh my God.
Isn't his name Douglas McGrath? That's Sergeant Nash.
Yes. That's the guy
John.
I think is in Porky's. I have to look it up.
So
he's in that scene.
Yeah, he's Coach Warren in Porky's.
Is he?
Yes. Yeah. Now, guys,
Travis is like, yes, I'm not full of shit. Yes.
Well, it was like my saying this movie won an Oscar out of my ass, and I didn't know it, and it was true.
So Desk Sergeant Nash, he shows up. The character shows up almost verbatim in The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which came out a couple of years after this. In that movie, he's just like a slapstick moron. Like, at least here, Nash is like a competent policeman who just needs to get out more. Yeah. By the time you get to Town That Dreaded Sundown, the desk sergeant is just like the most incompetent boob.
Don Knotts.
It's like, it's a Don. Like the music gets that movie is tonally all over the place. And the
was he one of the cops in Road Games?
Oh, worse than the Road Games cops. The Road Games cops were much closer to Nash than the town cops. But
whoa, that's bad.
I'm telling you, that movie is tonally all over the place. First scene, very scary. As you've seen, it gets goofy, and you didn't see the depths of the goofiness. Like, you need to watch that whole movie at some point. It gets weird.
You would think at some point the killer was going to kill somebody with a trombone. Oh, wait, that happened.
God, that movie is so good. I need to watch that again. It's been a while.
Great mask, though.
Great mask.
Great
rage. Great rage.
Great pickaxe. Pretty good with a pistol. Guys, Fellatio 20880. George, how familiar are you with how familiar are you with the old phone number system? Do you know why they say fellatio at the beginning of that exchange code? Do you have any idea what's going on in that scene? Because you're young and
he knows what fellatio is.
I know it. Well, yeah, I know what that is.
Did he have to Google it?
The old phone number scheme.
He looked it up on the dial-up.
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know the phone number scheme.
So, like in Kansas City, we have an area of town called Westport, and so the numbers around Westport would begin with the prefix of Westport 1. And so if you look at your phone, of course, do they even have it on cell phones anymore?
I know what you mean. There's letters associated with each. Yeah.
So in Westport, all the numbers would be
939, I believe.
931. So if you like old TV commercials, especially, they still play them sometimes locally just for nostalgia. It'd be Westport 1 7100 or whatever. Yeah, 731. It just back then your prefix was determined by your area. As things got more complicated, they had to lose that scheme.
And they just assigned numbers because that's what they had to do.
Well, they already had numbers, but they couldn't still just assign numbers based on
Right, but the numbers aren't associated with.
Do we need to break a map out?
Anything?
We should probably break a map out.
It's too dark for the helicopter to take off.
I love maps.
But
yeah, I get it. It's the area code of the time.
The next three after the area code. In a 7-digit number, the first three.
We never really had that in Jersey.
You did, but you just maybe Jersey's populated enough that they gave up earlier.
Yeah, the area code. I mean, I'm 46, and I don't remember ever dialing a letter before anything. I remember using letters to call. Like they would have.
Well, let's see.
They would spell shit out in their phone number.
What are the? Let's not do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this way predate. I mean, it was going out of fashion by the time you get to this movie. So by 74, 75, people aren't doing this anymore. But in the 60s, as the telephones are becoming mainstream, and you have mass integration by neighborhood, that's how they're doing the phone numbers.
Gotcha.
So fellatio is hilarious, and also a good opportunity to discuss the history of our infrastructure, guys.
Wow, glad we went there.
It's awesome.
What's next?
So they hook that poor old lady straight up chainsaw style. Nice off-screen kill, lots of screaming, lots of.
I like the dangling feet.
Yeah,
the dangling feet. Oh yeah.
I was angry at that scene because they took me out of it.
How did it take you out of it?
She does this goofy like stare, like she kind of like automatically goes right to the, I guess Billy is holding the hook waiting to throw it at her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of like, she hears the noise and whatever, and it's very tense. And then all of a sudden she like looks right at him and she doesn't react to the, it's almost like there's way too much time that goes. She could have dropped out of there. She could have moved. She just waited for this thing to hit her in the face.
Deer in headlights,
like,
I guess.
Yeah, it seemed goofy because of the look she gave him.
Or maybe she's
already
maybe
goofball.
She's wondering if she's really seeing what she's seeing.
It took me out.
Also, I think that hook would have just smacked her in the head and knocked her over.
Yeah, it wouldn't have hooked her.
You know?
Yeah. But
You'd
no,
have
it
to
was
time
cool.
it just right, and like, you know, like that hook, it's like a tow hook. It's blunt.
Yeah.
You know?
But no, it definitely was a cool chainsaw moment.
Yeah, but if you just take common sense out of it and just say, okay, she got hooked by it, and it lifted her up, and her feet are still dangling in the access in the ceiling, is good.
Yeah.
Dangling feet in the ceiling access is good stuff.
Yeah. Carpenter might have got that from this movie as well.
When did he do that?
To not do so much blood. Like, there's hardly any blood in this movie.
I think what happens is up through Halloween, there just isn't a lot of blood in these mainstream movies. And then Friday the 13th kicks the door wide open with that. And then from then on, blood everywhere. So you can thank Mr. Tom Savini.
Yes.
For
always
changing it.
Friend of the show.
Well, I thought of him during this movie because the blood on Peter was like orange. I was like, that's some 3M blood right there.
Now, this movie comes out in 1974. We've already talked about one movie that came out in 1974, George. Do you remember when we talked about a little movie called Godfather Part 2?
Yeah.
You remember when I said that back in 1974 they were putting abortion into every movie they could?
They sure were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we are. Big time plot point.
Now, do you think it was, I think with this movie, it was obviously in the script.
Yeah.
But in Godfather 2, it was added on set.
Yeah, they set that whole red herring up around the threatening boyfriend.
Yeah.
So it's integral to the plot. But yeah, so there it is.
I liked it better in Godfather.
Yeah, I think it had more purpose. I think this guy would have been suspect A minus that subplot.
Well, as soon as he takes the mic stand to the piano, you're like, oh, this guy might not be well balanced.
Well, yeah, just his behavior. He was very strange on purpose. Even minus that back and forth with them and the baby and all that stuff. Like, he was just unhinged. Wasn't necessary to have that in there, I don't think. Didn't change the story at all. Although Billy does mention some creepy baby stuff while he's on the phone. So
yeah, they
that's
don't,
only because he heard it. He heard them talking about it.
No, I mean, like in his back and forth with Agnes, he was saying stuff like that too.
His little like one act play where he plays both crazy roles, screaming at himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting choice not to give him any backstory, and just make you like pick and choose what you can from the phone calls as to what's actually going on with this dude. That's kind of interesting. You don't see that a lot going forward. It's not great for branding, right? Like, you're not going to make a franchise out of a guy who you don't know anything about. Still pretty scary, though, when you literally have no idea what this is that's threatening you.
True. It's the opposite of Halloween.
Yeah.
It's exactly like Psycho, too.
Yeah, it's very Psycho, but with less backstory for Norman.
Yeah.
And the random killing of the girl out in the park. That part always throws me. I don't know that it's definitively linked to Billy the killer guy. Like, I think you're supposed to assume that he's out there killing her too, but like, you could probably make a pretty cogent argument that it's a killing that happens that distracts the police and allows Billy to thrive in the house without him actually necessarily being involved in the killing in the park.
It's like John Rambo going into your town and blowing shit up to distract you so he can find, the other building. So he blows up this building, sends all the cops to that building, and then he goes to the other building. Maybe he just did that. I think he probably killed the girl, though. I think it was more, but not for the reasons that he's killing these girls. I think she stumbled upon him doing something, or, like you're saying, he killed somebody as a distraction so he could do what he wanted to do. Because obviously he has a connection to that house.
I think that the movie doesn't tell you. And
no, you tell you by watching it.
You have to make an assumption.
A lot.
And I think that whatever assumption you make,
you're right,
is correct for you.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I come to that conclusion is the attic contains a lot of objects that would not be in a sorority. Like there's a hobby horse up there. Mm-hmm. There's a rocking chair. There's a lot of
a bird cage.
It's a bird cage. There's a lot of children's stuff. Like I was picturing that he lived in that house as a kid. That's his family's house. Whatever it is that he keeps portraying on the phone with his sister or his mom or whatever.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about killing the child being found in the park. Like you automatically assumed it was him and he's doing it for this motivation, and like the movie doesn't
no, they leave it open.
Doesn't say any of that. And I took it as, I mean, I don't know, I guess I kind of just, in American law fashion was like, oh, well, everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty, right? So I can't just pin that on him. It could not be him. Could be someone else. I also thought of, just now, Patton Oswalt and his wife, who's passed away.
Yeah.
But she was I want to say crime scene investigator, but a cold case investigator kind of thing. And she would always say that that life is random, and the only thing that you can do is be kind. That was her thing.
Well, and she's the one who really made the Golden State Killer like a mainstream issue.
Was that her?
Yeah, Michelle McNamara, late wife of Patton Oswalt. She was the author of I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which was the giant project that brought the Golden State Killer, gave him his name, combined a bunch of different open cases into one name and one guy, and helped bring investigative attention back to the case, which eventually the investigators caught the guy and got him convicted. That's her. Her book is the one that really made it like a thing that we all talked about for a couple of years.
There you go.
And I brought her up in the Halloween episode because that was taking place during his reign. This movie predates his reign though, which is weird. Like, what the hell was going on in 1970 to 74?
The Carpenter said he wasn't thinking of that.
Well, yeah, it all came from him. He never thought about anything that had ever happened in the world.
Yeah, he was like, no.
Yeah, but with that little girl, or I don't even know if it was a girl, it just was a child.
It was a little girl.
What did it say, girl? Okay, yeah. So with the girl dead in the park, I just thought life is random, and it may or may not be this dude.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with the thing with horrible people. Tragedy will happen randomly, but a horrible person will never miss the opportunity to maximize their own gain from a tragedy, right? So whether he caused the murder of that poor child or if that was something unrelated, he benefited from it and maximized it by continuing to off those poor girls in the sorority house. So this movie has a lot in common with the old babysitter scary story you've probably heard before, George, although I don't know, when you grow up in George's house, you might not talk about the call is coming from inside the house. Have you ever heard that story? It's like one of the oldest trope, like scary stories that people would tell at parties and stuff.
I knew of it from, I think, like in the 80s, there was a movie called When a Stranger Calls.
Yes.
Which is starring our friend from Scrooged, Carol Kane. The fairy, the Christmas present.
Yeah,
fairy.
she was the abusive fairy.
Yes,
bitch hit me with a toaster.
Bitch hit me with a toaster. She's the Jess character in that movie.
Okay,
so she's home, but it's more she's home alone. It's not like she's in a sorority,
right?
Like I believe a lot of it's the same concept, and then they the cops tell her, the calls are coming from inside the house. But it wasn't. I didn't know this movie existed, so whenever someone made reference to that, I always thought of that movie.
Yeah.
But that's like 6 years after this.
Yeah. So, by the time I came up in the late 80s, it was just a story that even like on one of the Halloween Simpsons, one of the early ones, they kind of cut to Lisa telling that story in a treehouse, and she's doing the last line. Oh, it's too late. They're calling from inside the house, and Bart's like, ugh, heard it.
Yeah.
So by 1990, 1991, that is just like been there, done that kind of thing. I don't know if it predates Black Christmas and is just a good old fashioned story, but When a Stranger Calls, definitely the same kind of idea.
It was creepier in Stranger Calls because the guy was not. He was more like Scream.
Mm-hmm.
He would talk to her in a normal voice, and all he would say to her is, "Have you checked the children?"
Well, and see, I wonder if
she was babysitting.
Right.
I wonder if you don't get that and you don't get Scream if you don't have this movie.
No,
Because
I don't.
Everybody
I
that sees
totally
this,
agree.
and the story itself might be older. I don't know the history of that story. But the thing about Black Christmas is they really go for it, right? He says the C word. He says all kinds of gross things. And like they're really pushing as hard as they can to make this like real fucked up. Well, then you have the turn, I'm going to kill you. Hits so hard that after that, I think people realize, oh, when he calls, he needs to be more that and less the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, another part of the formula that wasn't quite right, that they got right.
Well, and the thing you need
Right,
to remember, George,
eventually.
is your knowledge of the formula kind of stops with Scream. We didn't really do much after that. After Scream, the whole like virgin is the surviving one is the new thing that they play with. So when you talk about, oh, they got the formula right and now like the good virgin survives, like in Halloween, well, that worked for like 10 years. But after that, now they play with it, right? Like they know that the good one is going to survive. So like that's no longer as... That formula, it doesn't work anymore, right? It's played out. So now we do new things.
Well, the thing in the 90s was making the killer like a mousy female that you didn't expect. Or,
that's an Argento move. They took that from him.
Because I remember, what was the movie where, was it Urban Legend? Those kind of movies where the killer is a girl and you're not expecting it because you're so into that trope that it's going to be a guy. And there's no mother involved, so it's not a Mrs. Voorhees type situation. And then you find out it's like...
Man, that shit fucked me up. In such a good way. But yeah.
Well, speaking of that, the thing that kept popping up, when they started showing the police station, I started thinking that Nash was the killer because he was so weird. But then when they had the fellatio moment and you saw how Gomer Pyle he was just dumb. There was no way that he was making those phone calls. So, and he wasn't playing it dumb. He was fucking dumb.
He was dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when I wrote him out. But then I started hearing the laughing of that other cop.
Oh, Giggly Cop. I liked Giggly Cop.
Cop.
I felt like he and I both had the same feelings toward Fellatio guy.
Right, but when I heard his laugh, it reminded me of the laugh on the phone call. And then I noticed every time I saw him, he had a bandage on one of his fingers. And I was like, well, maybe that's an injury from being the murderer. And then the murderer has that same giggly laugh. So I was like, okay, maybe he's the killer. But then then the red herring was the boyfriend. And I still, to this day, thought he was the killer, till the very end, was the killer because he had the same shirt on. And the hair was the same. So I was like, okay, they're just playing with shadows. But it's him. And then when they have the final ending, that's when you're like, oh, okay, they're just doing this.
I think you, Travis, are really going to enjoy Tenebrae when we get to it. Because the English dub is good. You don't have to do the subs thing. There's not a lot of goofy acting, and the quirky stuff is mostly minimized. And you'll spend the whole movie doing that exact thing. Like, oh, it's got to be them. Oh, it's got to be them. Oh, I've got it figured out. I think it's them. And then you'll see if you were right.
And if there's any actresses in there that make me think, like, I watched this whole movie going, I know who plays Phil. I know who that is. Phyllis, I guess it's short for Phyllis. I'm looking at her. I'm like, I recognize her. I don't know why I know her. And I'm sitting here staring at the credits, and it says Andrea Martin, and I'm like, holy shit. It's Andrea Martin who from SCTV and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and like she's a comedic genius. And to see her in this movie, I'm like, holy crap. It's crazy.
Yeah, and she comes back later and plays Miss Mac in the 2006 remake of this movie, which I do not recommend. It's not great.
No, I heard horrible things about it.
It's kind of, if I were to compare it to anything, it's kind of got the Rob Zombie thing where they're just trying too hard to over-explain the background of this killer guy.
Right. And don't they give him a mask and stuff?
I don't remember if there's a mask. I just remember the first bit was so like crass and unnecessary that I actually turned it off the first time. It took me years to come back and be like, okay, I'll just get through that and maybe it'll be fine. And then a bunch of like the same people who were in every movie in 2006 are in it. So like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Michelle Trachtenberg, like all these people that were in all these other slasher type movies in that same era are all here. So that's kind of fun. But it's still, it doesn't hold a candle to this. And
probably because they're missing every nuance that makes this movie what it is to people. Like, I don't think
nuance when you've got more blood, more gore.
Right. Exactly.
More incest. What? Ugh.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
It's about the way telephones work.
Yeah.
The call is coming from the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there have to be two lines.
There were.
They acknowledge that there are. But they kind of play it down right away. Which if you're keen, you might catch on and be like, oh, that's a tell. Yeah. Like they did that on purpose.
Yeah. As soon as he said it, I actually wrote it down. I wrote down, as soon as the cops established that there were two lines in the house, I knew what was up. And then I wrote down Nash. But then I was like, no, that's not him. So, yeah, they say it that the house mother had her own line.
But there hadn't been any calls on that line, right? There hadn't been any obscene phone calls reported on that number. It's like, well, yeah, because they're all coming from that number.
Coming from that number.
Go on, movie. Go on.
So, yeah, they covered that base.
I guess that's all I was like, there's a secret phone line, but I guess it wasn't secret.
The wiretap, like the scenes of the guy at the phone company was interesting because I never knew it was that intricate.
Watching him run through that giant phone company thing is my favorite scene in the movie. And I love the end of this movie so much that should be my favorite scene because it gives me the heebie-jeebies every time. But man, it's just such a cool relic of a bygone era. You're never going to get that cool a scene with that kind of blocking without making it a period piece now.
Right. It reminded me of Strangelove a little bit for some reason because it was like all white and he was like the contrast running around in there. It was chaotic.
Yeah, there's something about the scale of it too. It's so big. It's like the big board, right? It's just that much bigger in scale than the humans in front of it. It's a big board.
It's a big board. That's a big board.
So the end of this movie, we already kind of touched on it. George, did it not give you the heebie-jeebies that she's laying there and she thinks she's safe and they think she's safe and they don't realize that the whole time he's in the attic waiting to come out?
It did not give me the heebie-jeebies.
You have no soul. Go on.
Because I did not suspect the boyfriend. What's his name? Peter. I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Well, it doesn't matter if you suspect Peter.
Because
it matters if the cops suspect Peter, because now they suspect Peter is the killer and you know he's not. You have dramatic irony playing, and she's going to sleep in that room unprotected.
Well, apparently the guy killed her. If you
follow the movie, she's definitely dead.
She's dead because he was coming out of the attic.
Credits roll.
And the phone call.
Yeah, because he always calls after he kills, so.
And nobody's going to stop him.
Yeah.
Nobody did. No, it didn't give me the heebie-jeebies.
Have you guys checked the attic lately? When was the last time you were in your attic, Travis?
My kids sleep in the attic, so I'm up there a lot.
Yeah. Oh, do they have their own phone line?
No.
Any plastic bags? They're very dangerous, those children.
They are dangerous.
That's true. They should come with a warning.
They do.
Yeah, no, the very end didn't. I was just like, okay, yeah, she's effed. I don't know, man. I would just I watched this movie with zero investment in any of the characters the entire time. I don't know.
We watched it at the wrong time, I think.
I don't know. I mean, it's Christmas. I watched this a couple of years ago with my wife's family. They'd never seen it. And I was just like, oh, hey, it's on Prime. I'm going to watch this because nobody was around. And then within 10 minutes, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law had all come to the living room, sat down, and kind of got engrossed in it. And so
right around when he's talking about their pink.
Yeah, no, they made it through the whole movie, and they were totally cool. And I applaud them for their kind of... they've got good taste, though. I mean, I appreciate them sticking it out. They all enjoyed it. Actually, my father-in-law enjoyed it most of all, and he was the last person I thought would enjoy it. So I was impressed. It's a good flick, guys. And important. I mean, you don't get Halloween if you don't have Black Christmas, which is bonkers that they're like, hey, we're going to kill a bunch of babysitters. We're going to maybe borrow some information from these Lindsay movies, and we're going to make a movie like that, only here. Well, hey, Black Christmas, let's make this one Halloween. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I probably would have not liked this movie if I didn't know why it was important. Because it just, to me, it seems sloppy compared to the other movies that I've seen and love. Because I skipped over this movie. I went right to Halloween. I didn't watch movies prior to that were of this genre.
I think that's where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at.
So it's I'm always going to compare everything to Halloween, even though this inspired that. If that makes sense.
And I watched it not knowing that this was the first slasher ever, basically.
Right.
Well, we can't tell you stuff like that.
And if you told me that, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
That's creative. Look at that.
While your Shudder account is still open, watch it again sometime this weekend. Watch it with Meg. It doesn't have anything that she wouldn't put up with. And then see if you like it more the second time now that you know the context, and see if maybe next time we should just give you a heads up as to why you're watching it before it's watched. Although I still feel like that's cheating.
Cheating. You're cheating.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like if
I think if he knew the importance
on its own, the movie's not that good.
Oh,
right.
But
it's like prom night.
In context, it's great.
Right.
You know?
I think you would have watched it more tentatively if you knew why you were watching
and
it.
Maybe I would have given a crap about the characters, too.
Yeah. If you knew why you were watching it, because there is a lot of subtle things going on.
Yeah, I gotta watch it again because I gotta like analyze it for stuff that makes it to other movies, and that may or may not have been done before.
Even like Texas Chainsaw, which is the same year. Females are just damsels. And this movie's full of females, and they're all basically cattle. They're lined up.
Mm-hmm.
But they're written in a way that you start seeing, especially the Jess character, like she's strong throughout. She's like Laurie Strode, but seems to have a lot more going on in her life.
She's not like
the
Laurie
character,
Strode.
not Jamie Lee.
I'm just kidding.
But
you just can't compare anyone to JLC.
Well, look at if you look at Laurie Strode, she really had nothing going on in her life other than babysitting children. She didn't have a love life. She didn't have school problems. She was a good student. She didn't have any problems. This woman here seemed like she was dealing with a lot.
Well, this could have been Jamie Lee. I mean, this could have been Laurie Strode. I don't want to conflate the two for George's sake. But
right.
This could be Laurie Strode if Halloween doesn't happen and she gets to college. It wouldn't be much of a stretch to be like, this is where she ended up.
Right. Yeah, this is like Scream 2.
Yeah.
Sydney in college. Which is ironic because the Billy character is basically, he's Michael Myers. He's obviously either escaped from an insane asylum or definitely belongs in one.
He's definitely stuck in a
child's mind.
Yeah.
And he's connected to that house for some reason.
Yep.
And
lots and lots and lots borrowed.
But he seems like he's suffering from trauma. Like, if I were reading what he says on those calls as any indication of what he's been through, he's more your Rob Zombie Michael Myers than your, like, actual Michael Myers.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's the cause of the trauma. It sounds like he did. It sounds like Agnes is like his sister, and I think he might have killed her. Or there sounds like maybe some sexual abuse. Like, he says something like, "Don't tell him what we did." Like, there's just a lot of things. There's
It's a hot
lot
mess,
of baggage
man.
there. There's a lot of baggage there that they're not talking about.
Yeah.
So that attic full of stuff, if it belongs to his family, if that stuff in that attic was stuff left over from when they lived there, and that's his childhood stuff.
He's Michael Myers.
There's a lot of shit going on in that attic that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And we don't need to know about, because I'm going to be consistent. I like not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the little nods here and there to make you assume stuff. I just didn't like not seeing his face.
So was Mrs. Mack his mother?
Yes, she's Mrs. Lippman.
I would say absolutely not. No way.
Oh, was she that great big fat person with the drinking problem?
Well, you definitely need to watch this again, George. Now that you have more context, give this another shot, and really have Meg watch it, because I think she'd enjoy it. What are we doing next, Travis?
Black New Year.
New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil. Yeah, that's
Ugh, that's one of the ones I can't even make it through. That's boring as hell.
We are going to watch a movie.
Mm.
You know what? I think we're ready for this one.
All right.
We are going to watch a movie that was made by this man that we're not sure if you've seen before or
This
not.
man?
This man. Mr. Bob Clark.
Mr. Clark? Okay.
Mr. Clark. Have you ever seen A Christmas Story?
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay.
We're going to watch Porky's.
Porky's.
Awesome.
We're watching
I can't wait to piss myself.
I hope you do, man. I hope you do. I have not watched this movie in a long time, and I'm so happy I'm watching it. Yeah. We're watching Porky's.
Cool.
I don't want to tell you anything else about it, although it sounds like I need to so that you appreciate what we're showing you.
Yeah, and stop threatening to quit before every episode.
No, is it a good movie?
It's a classic.
It
then
is.
I don't need context.
It might be the movie that Travis is always thinking of when he says that they can't make movies anymore like they used to.
Oh, God, no. This movie's not
Then
allowed to be made today.
I'll be fine. I'll just watch it.
You'll be fine.
Thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class podcast. As always, you can find us at Twitter and Instagram at Remedial Film Pod. You can find us at Facebook.com/Remedial Film Pod. And you can join our group at Facebook.com/groups/Remedial Film Pod. We'll be back next week with the comedy classic, Porky's.